Hello lovelies and welcome to the channel. Yes, today I have a scrapbook layout. I finally got one finished, and so this video I actually started back in May. So I did this background back in May. Now Will and I have been interested in street art and graffiti for a while now, and I made this background with that in mind. I thought if I got a really great photo I could use this background, and it was more, I actually had an idea in my head for the background I wanted to create. So I made the background, but had no photo ready and in mind, ready to go. But if you watched my last video, Will and I went urban exploring on the weekend and found some street art that we liked and got some really cool photos. So at long last, I finally had some photos that I could use with this layout. But yeah, it was more just something I had in my head, something that inspired me, and I thought, oh, I would love to do this and give it a grungy graffiti kind of look, and then maybe one day I would get a photo that would suit it. So needless to say, I was always on the lookout for possible photo inspiration. But yeah, I had this layout, this background made months ago. And it was actually a lot of fun to make. I really enjoyed it. So I've got my spray inks out. I've got London Blue, which there isn't much left of, and I think it's polished jade. And I've just sprayed them in a few areas. I haven't tried to blend them at all. I did want the spray can type look, and then I used a bit of water just to spread out my ink a bit and get some cool drips happening. And then I have added some splatters because, you know, I need splatters in my life. And then I gave it a quick dry. Now, to get some really bold black splatters, I like to use black drawing ink. So I have Liquitex black and white ink for when I want a really bold, heavy look. And it comes with a dropper. So sometimes, you know, I just drop big splats all over the place. They always remind me of ink blots. But yeah, sometimes a spray bottle is just not enough for me, so I get the big fat dropper out. And then I wanted to add a bit more black to it, so once I dried all that, I got my black heavy gesso out and I literally ran it around the edge of my lid for the gesso. The only problem is this lid doesn't go back on properly now because it's so caked in hard paint, because I'm not one to clean anything, but it just gives me really great circles every time. So I've done that. And as you can see, I'm rummaging around on my table for another circle. This is what I do. This is how I get impressions and things. So I think this is the lid for one of the Dilution sprays. And I'm just adding that in a few areas as well. And then I'm going to dry that. And then I just wanted a bold pattern. So I go back through my stencils and I get a chevron stencil, and I just use some more of that black heavy gesso just in a couple of places. I actually end up covering it up a little bit, but at the time I just wanted to add just a bold pattern, and I was really loving the black look on all my ink. So I've just added that in a few places, and that's pretty much where I finished this video back in May, and we're about to pick up where I started it on Saturday. So this is one of the photos from our urban exploration adventure that we had on Saturday. So basically, Will and I wanted to go look for some street art, and I put a post out and got some really great tips on where to find some really cool street art around. Burleigh was a hit. It was great. And yeah, we went on an adventure and went scouting out some street art, and we had a great time. It was a really good morning, and yeah, this was one of my favorite photos. I took a burst on my phone. If you don't have an iPhone, basically you hold the button down and it takes a bunch of random photos in succession. And Will had decided to run and jump in front of one of the walls. And because I'd pressed the button to get a burst, I got a whole bunch of really good photos, and this was my favorite. So I had to scrapbook it, and I knew it would be perfect for the background because of those blues. And the colours, they work mostly. That bright green really pops, but I thought I could make it work, and I really wanted to use this background. So I went through my stash. I knew I wanted to go with one of the many boy collections I have, and I knew I had a couple. I think it was You Rock and Totally Rad. I knew one of these would work really well, so I went and grabbed what I could. In the end, I find the Totally Rad collection, and just start pulling bits and pieces out to sort of embellish my layout. I don't really like the cluster at the top now that I'm looking at it. I don't know why. It bothers me. I don't know. But for the most part, I really like this layout. So the Totally Rad just absolutely worked with the graffiti style in the background of the photo. So what I did is I didn't mat it on white cardstock. I actually printed this with a white border. So when I cut it, it already had a white border. And then I used some of the paper from the paper pack because I have hoarded this range like you wouldn't believe. Turns out I've got 3 sets of the die cuts, the ephemera pieces. Yeah, I need to start using it. So, yeah, this piece in the background, I just ripped one edge. I was going to rip the whole thing, but in the end I didn't because of just the way I'd ripped it. And when I rip things, I never get a good rip. And I know that sounds stupid, but it just never looks right. So I just left it with one side ripped, gave it that bit of grunge that I was looking for. Now, the issue I have when I place things down is when I go to put them back down, when I lift up something to glue it down, when I put it back, it's never in the same place. Tell me I'm not the only one with that problem. But I think that's what I don't like about this top cluster. It's not in the place where I originally put it, which really bothered me. And you'll see that I try and move it, but it doesn't really work because the glue's already set. I got a new glue bottle, and yeah, this glue is very full, so yeah. Anyway, so I went through the ephemera pieces, got out a few bits and pieces. These cogs, I think this says 100% awesome, so that brought in some of the orange from that background. And I also use a little epic fishtail banner down the bottom just to bring in those colours from that picture. So I've brought in some of the green using these cogs as well. And obviously there's lots of that blue on the background. And then I'm going with the Totally Rad because it just suits too perfectly. And the font and just everything about it worked really well. So I was really happy when I picked this collection. And then I saw this awesome little wood chevron that would have been great if there had been more in the packet, but there was only one. I love chevrons. They're my favourite shape, I think, when it comes to embellishing my masculine and my boy pages. But yeah, there was only one in here, so I do manage to put it down the bottom because I do like to cluster things in 3s. Someone once told me years ago, odd numbers always work really well, so I always try and cluster things in odd numbers. But yeah, I really wish there had been more in the packet. But now I'm just going to add some enamel dots, and then that's going to be it for this layout. So please let me know in the comments below what you think, and I hope you have enjoyed this video. And I will be back really soon with a new video. It's actually a really cool one. Me and Will did it together, so stay tuned for that. Bye for now.